The following video was very hard for me to do. There was so many personal feelings tied to this movie.
Eliminate even the toughest stain.
It's the cartoon that would warp a generation and would go on to cult infamy. For many, it would be the first time they would experience death. One of my grail tapes is Transformers the movie. Let's check it out.
The Transformer is sold separately from Hasbro.
Oh, we're not doing GoBots? Man, I am absolutely feeling the August heat. It is hotter than an Ikiak in here. Oh man, that is so much better. And with the help of my Kool-Aid Jammer Mister, I think I can get through this.
Diabetes.
All we're gonna need is a little Energon and a lot of luck. A lot of people think that a Grail tape needs to be something super rare, but to me, it's something that is special to you, something that you've sought out for some time. One of those movies for me is Transformers the movie. On my show, we don't just talk about the movie. I kind of feel like anybody could do that. Here, we like to talk about the VHS release. And as far as having a complete version of Transformers the movie goes, this is a pretty good one. The version I have is the Canadian release from Behavior, formerly known as Melafilm. These guys changed the name of their company quite a bit. The ones marked Melafilm can go for a little bit more, although you can probably still find some in the wild for a couple bucks. The cover art is pretty dope for the most part, and it don't feel cheap like some clammies can do. Although it does have that horrible noise that all clammies seem to do that I'm not a big fan of. Yeah, I guess you're right, Krabby. It does kind of sound like a mating call. To me, the best part of a movie is the trailers, but this one doesn't really have any, and it don't have anything cool like Full Moon's Video Zone, although I wish it did. Now, one of the cool things about it is the complete movie. It has all of the cuss words in it, which I don't think I can watch without, and it also features all the violence.
Look! It isn't even dented! Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah, I know you don't like cuss words. You're quite sensitive for a crustacean. My version doesn't have the Star Wars style movies scroll, and I wish it did, because that's pretty dope. No, you're right. You're a pin release. This is one of those movies that I know word for word, so I'll try not to get too annoying.
Turbo Revision Pwn.
Cup Daddy? He can straighten out my sheets anytime.
Obelisk, look, it's Unicron!
All right. I can't resist. I could give you a quick synopsis of this movie, but I kind of feel like you just need to pop it in and watch it, and then come back in and visit your boy Mikey.
Wish we were watching My Little Pony.
Skippity-doo! I love Fluttershy. To this day, I can still pop this movie in as a comfort movie, and I've probably seen it more than any movie in my collection. When I was a teenager, me and my buddies' big asses used to stay in his Transformers tent, and we would watch this movie all night long, trying to stay up because in the morning, we were gonna go out looking for Transformers toys. We called ourselves the Toy Hoarders of the Apocalypse, and we were quite a terror if anybody got in the way of us getting the toys we wanted. Remember when you farted on that guy because he was in your way? Yeah, I kinda agree. The Toy Hoarders were pretty awesome. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and pop it like it's hot.
One-day shipping is the right of all sentient beings.
Now this isn't your daddy's Transformers, it's one awesome action set piece after another, and it's pretty awesome, although I guess I would be the daddy in this case, in which case if you're my son, we got a whole lot of catching up to do. I think you're gonna like it here. I got all these cool tapes and shit.
He is not touching my toes.
I guess I could make you a bed in the trash here in the video alley. But I'm gonna try to make it up to you, son. No, do a quick synopsis for those that haven't seen it. Skippity-doo! The movie is set in a futuristic 2005. And in 1985, it seemed kinda possible. The movie opens up with a planet-sized robot named Unicron who is eating planets like a Redditor claims to eat ass. Meanwhile, Megatron launches an attack on Autobot City, and all is lost until Optimus Prime makes the ultimate sacrifice. Megatron would also fall in battle. One of my favorite parts of the movie is when Optimus Prime does that sweet-ass flip and starts taking out all those fools. It's pretty badass. Prime, before dying, passes the Matrix to Ultra Magnus, who seems like the best candidate for the job.
The ceremony.
Yeah, Starscream does sound like Cobra Commander. Unicron finds Megatron and upgrades him to Galvatron, most likely to add star power to the role.
No, I don't think anybody's cooler than Frank Welker.
He soon punks out Ultra Magnus and takes the Matrix for himself. G-Man tries to take control of Unicron. This pisses him off and he sets out to destroy Cybertron. All seems lost until Hot Rod uses the Matrix to light their darkest hour. More on him later.
You got the power!
There must have been a couple different teams working on this movie because sometimes the animation would be breathtaking and other times it would be pretty clunky. The animation team was working on this while working on the series, and I imagine that added quite a bit of crunch. It's probably why there's so many oddities in the animation. I'm not the type of guy that can work on two things at the same time, so I have quite a bit of respect. If I don't finish the thing I'm working on, then it's never gonna get finished.
No, maybe you could film us some more footage, skippity-doo.
I always love the scene at Starscream's coronation because the Constructicons are playing these horns and half of them don't even have mouths. There's quite a few silly things like that in this movie. Hey, none of us were really complaining. This shit looked pretty awesome.
Get to the point already.
I feel like despite their corporate overlords, the writers and animators did a lot to add heart to this story. It is something that the modern movies seriously lack. I'm sad people will never know how good Transformers could actually be. I never really saw any need for the Michael Bay movies. I feel like this is the perfect Transformers experience.
Sweet Transformers, dick and ball. Bees.
It's not often I can say this, but I love every song on the soundtrack, and just hearing them, they are everything that's awesome about the 80s. You got Weird Al, Lion, Stan Bush, this shit is dope.
You got the touch. You got the power.
I like that this movie didn't assume kids were stupid and just jumped into it without any sort of backstory. It wasn't uncommon for me to be rocking the soundtrack while I was playing with my toys, much to the dismay of the people probably in my house. One of my favorite additions to the movie was the Junkians, cause, well, that's how me and my friends talk to each other. We talk TV. And I imagine if you're watching this, you, in fact, probably talk a little TV yourself. When I have a friend who's full of shit, I'll say, hey, you're full of Barivium baloney. And he'll know exactly what I mean.
Me, Grimlock, say you full of cesium salami.
I don't even think I could hang out and talk to people that didn't talk in movie quotes.
Now we
could talk about the director, the animators, or the dude that ran the craft services, but I kind of feel like you could look that information up just about anywhere.
It's 2005, and the Autobots are maintaining their craft services. And there's a severe shortage of bottled water.
But I thought I would share a story that's a little bit more personal. I feel like to tell that story, we're gonna have to go back to the beginning. I'll never forget my first Transformer. My Uncle Tony bought it for me thinking it was just a regular truck. And when I opened it up, I thought it was one too. At that age, I never saw a Transformer before. I think I drove that little semi around for a few days before I realized that it transformed, and I was pretty excited, so I ran to school to tell everybody what I just learned. I thought I was the coolest thing since Lamborghini posters, and I was strutting around like I was some kind of Transformers pimp. Unfortunately, I attracted the wrong type of attention, and this bully named David grabbed my Optimus and snapped his legs in half like a wishbone. When I got home, I got in trouble for breaking my toy. I was too ashamed to tell my parents what really happened. I was having all kinds of trouble at school and I wasn't talking to them. Earlier that year, my father passed away and I was going to grief counseling for it. I was getting in all kinds of fights and I had a lot of anger inside me. But not all was lost because I was doing so good with my appointments. My grandma thought she would treat me to Transformers the movie, and I was so excited to see all my favorite characters on the big screen. The movie opens up with one awesome action set piece after another, and wait, did they just shoot one of my favorite characters? Instead of focusing on characters you knew, a mostly new cast was added, which was a pretty bold choice. After all, we were there to see our favorite dudes. They added a very fan-divided Judd Nelson as Hot Rod, the master of murder porn Robert Stack as Ultra Magnus. Leonard Nimoy was pretty much rocking it as Galvatron, and Orson Welles, I'm pretty sure didn't know what he was really doing there, but he played Unicron. Orson wasn't doing very well during the making of this movie, and I kind of feel like his sickly voice adds a little bit of something to the character. And in my personal opinion, I think all of them did a pretty good job. I mean, they had some pretty big shoes to fill. Some of them a little harder than others.
Oh, that's not the thing that I know.
I don't think there'll ever be a character as hated as Hot Rod, and he had such promise too. I really enjoyed the scene with him and Daniel fishing. I thought it was pretty charming. Fans still debate over how that played out. I was fine with many of the characters getting killed. I mean, there was more than enough to go around, although it was hard to lose a few of my favorites. It's kind of a bad way to set off a new leader, but in a way, it kind of adds an extra level of responsibility of something he needs to live up to. Self-doubt and character growth is something that should happen in a hero's journey. One of the things I didn't understand as a kid is they could put back Ultra Magnus, but couldn't fix Optimus Prime. But I kind of feel like he kind of knew it was his day to die, and it was important to pass the Matrix on at that moment. There was some hidden wisdom inside, or I'm just headcanoning the whole thing, which is quite possible. He made the ultimate sacrifice to save his friends, and I think that's a very important element to the movie. I did not like how they brought Optimus Prime back in the later series. I kind of feel like it cheapened his death and it made it mean nothing. You know, I had two heroes in my life, Optimus Prime and my dad. You should have seen my dad's Hulk Hogan impression. It was the best. I still remember those pythons. But I lost both of them that year. I think a lot of us, it was seeing death for the first time. Watching Optimus Prime lay on that bed, watching him turn gray, the life just withered out of him. He wasn't coming back, and we all knew it. I remember after the big giant battle with Unicron, people were just kind of shuffling out of the theater. Everybody's so silent. Nobody was talking about what they saw, but we were feeling it. After that, it turned out that the movie would become a flop. There were so many bad articles on it, and you would think that my opinion on it would be fairly poor considering what happened. Even though the decision to kill characters was just based on sales. Had to make way for the new characters, right? I kind of felt like that it gave a consequence to the violence. When I left, I knew I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I would start to think about my actions a little bit more. Before the movie, every toy I had was invincible, but after that, if a character got shot, they would spend time in the hospital, or I would put them out of commission for a while. I don't know, I just kind of feel like it had an impact on the rest of my life. I think the movie would be cheapened greatly if they withheld the violence, the lessons it would teach. And I'm afraid that a lot of things that are out now aren't teaching you anything of importance. They said this movie wasn't a success, but it inspired generations to come. It brought friends together. And never forget the toy hoarders of the apocalypse. When was the last time you watched a movie that moved a nation? Transformers would go on to have an even bigger impact in my life, but that's a story for another day. Well, until next time, till all are one.